Welcome to this week's episode of Listen to Your Coaches. I'm your coach, Mike Wilkins, here with Coach Will Morrill. And behind the scenes, we've got a young Max Gerald on the producer desk. Forewarning, I just left the dentist, so the right side of my face is not working the way that it normally would. So if you hear some weird speech patterns, dude, I can only hear it now. And things like that. No cause for concern. Hey, let's get into it. All right.
Someone's going to skip the opening and just like see a clip and be like, yo, is Mike having a stroke?
Yeah. That's what I actually was thinking about that. Yeah. Okay. So, big weekend this weekend, UFC 314. It was a killer card before the card. We were looking at it, really excited about it. I would say it lived up to expectations. It was a great card. So we're going to get into that. Do we want to talk about the card before we talk about the money? Or do we want to talk about the money and then get into the card?
Oh,
I think money.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's do the betting.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, this was week 2 of the Listen to Your Coaches gambling block, in which we are running a structured gambling unit game all the way up all the way up until International Fight Week. The way to play the contest is you start with 20 units. We described the units in past episodes on why we're using units, but you start with 20 units. That's your bankroll. If you go bankrupt, that's it. You're out. And we're going to see who has the most units at the end of International Fight Week. Just kind of see how that's playing. Obviously, myself, Will, and Max are involved. We also have some of our friends who have jumped in, and you guys can still jump in too. I mean, you kind of see jumping in right now. It's kind of an advantage, I'm going to be honest. All right, but yeah, we'll get into it. So, Max, do you have the numbers?
Yeah, I got the numbers pulled up here right now.
All right, cool. So, currently in the contest would be the three of us and our friends. We have Lucas Jones. We have Jesse Sadu. We have Josh Pullins. I was trying to save him for last because he's in first place. But who else do we have in?
I've been receiving like bets and different tickets from different people, but I don't know if like Brian Mitchell, he has like been placing bets, but I don't know if he's sticking to the exact 20 unit measurement. I think it might just be kind of following along with our bet type thing. But as far as I know, we have Lucas Jones, Josh Pullins, and Jesse Sadu who are like on the roster right now.
All right,
well,
cool.
Brian, I'm going to tell you right now, if you're following our bets, you should stop that because we're shitty gamblers.
Well, that's not true. But, you know, here goes the thing. One thing I know is a lifelong gambler, there's ups and there's downs. You're never as good as you think, and you're never as bad as you think. All right? We got to ride that wave right in the middle. Okay, so right now, out of the 6 people partaking in the contest at the moment, only 2 people are in plus money, and 4 of us are down, right? Max, who is in last place right now? I think it's Lucas Jones. It is.
Yeah, it would be Lucas Jones.
Lucas Jones went from first to last. The kid knows how to go big or go home. Had a rough weekend, and I believe he is now down 4 units.
Yeah,
all right.
He's sitting at 16 total right now.
Right. I believe I'm next, as I think I'm down 3.5 units, which would put me at 16.5.
Well, you'd actually be right above Will, who's sitting at 16.25.
No, I'm at 17.25.
Oh, never mind. Then yes, you are.
Yeah. I think in the future, Mike, you might need to be the keeper of numbers.
There was we were kind of rushing on me getting this information to Max this morning. So yeah, I would be next at 16.5 units remaining in my bankroll. Will has 17.25 units remaining in his bankroll. Max, you have 17 units.
Yeah, I've got 17.
So those are the 4 losers right now. We're all in the negative, from our bankroll right now. But then we have Jesse Sadu, who jumped in this week. Jesse wagered 3 units this week and turned a profit of 0.1 units. So, that's a profit, though. Profit's a profit. Josh Pullins, I didn't do his math from the last week before the last week's show, but I did the math through this week. So he finished off last week up 0.3 units. But he had a big week this week, and he is now in a strong lead for the Listen to Your Coaches gambling contest with 4.5 units up. So yeah, he's now at 24.5 units. So If you want to know Josh Polance's bets so you can follow along with him, tell him he should, post them on the internet so that way you can copy. And he guarantees results. He will guarantee it or your money back. Ponzi.
Oh,
all right.
love it.
Yep. So that's what we got going on. So let's get into these fights. Or do we want to talk about the bets you made, or just let that come up organically through the fights?
I think we let that come up organically.
All right, let's go.
Because there's a specific fight with it. Really kind of ruined me. But
Okay, yeah. All right, so let's start. Where do we want to start with? Do we want to start with the big show?
yeah, dude, let's start main event.
Main event. All right. Alexander Volkanovski versus Diego Lopez.
But wait, it's not just that. It's also Alex Volkanovski versus Father Time. And I'll tell you
Bro.
what, he's winning.
He's winning. Yeah, man, he looked great. Any complaints with the result of the fight?
Oh, no. What do
No.
you mean, like the judging?
Yeah.
Oh, no. Not
Max.
No, I was no complaints in the end result. I mean, I thought that some of the scorecards were a little strange, but
How
What
so?
did you think was strange? This is interesting.
Was it 49,
I thought-
48? I see.
yeah, I thought 48-47 was I thought 48-47 was a little generous towards Diego.
Okay.
I wanted
Yeah.
Diego to win.
Well,
but,
so
yeah.
that's why I wanted to talk to you about it, because you are definitely you lean Diego. Like I know you like him, right? So I was like, oh, and I scored the fight 4-1, so 49-46. And I was wondering what Max would score it. And yeah, so hearing Max agree kind of like makes this less of a controversy.
Yeah, no,
to
those are
me.
spot on scores. I believe I bet on Diego, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
I bet on Diego to win because of the odds, but I was so fired up the Volk one, so happy.
Yeah.
and like how he did it too, like using tools that people think of as like a young guy's game, right? All that movement, the feints, right? Weaponizing his pace like he kind of always does. I mean, I guess it wasn't like the most insanely paced fight, but for 5 rounds it was very high paced, And dude, he just looked incredible. He literally turned back time. Like he's what, the only guy over 35, right?
At
That's the stat?
155 and under, Volk is the only person above 35 when his
To win a
opponent
title
is younger
fight.
to win a title fight.
He's so awesome. And to come off of 2 back-to-back knockout losses and have a performance like that. And he got rocked in the fight, too. He got dropped in, what, the second, I think, or the third?
The second.
In the second round.
The
and
second.
then, I mean, dude, I'm so fired up about Volk. His strategy and tactics, moving off to his right, taking the back. I mean, dude.
I was kind of surprised by like how. So here goes. I actually had money on Volk, not in the contest. I had a FanDuel bet, which I used for outside of the contest, that I must have put in, like when the fight was announced, right? Because like I didn't put it. Like I actually should go look after, but I had 3 bets already in from like whenever
Yeah.
they announce fights. Like sometimes like I'll jump on odds early,
Right.
and I think Volk closed at a minus like 175 or so, and I had him at a minus 120 by getting him that early.
That's solid.
Yeah, so I definitely was like, but I thought it would be a little bit more. I don't know. I was surprised at how much Volk led the dance like almost the entire time. You know what I mean?
That's interesting. That doesn't surprise me that much. How did you see the fight happening?
I felt like Diego Lopez would be a little bit more aggressive
Yeah.
in certain spots.
I see what you mean.
I
think
felt
that-
like when he was starting to become aggressive, Volk had really good interruptions.
100%. Yeah. I kind of felt that the fight was going to go exactly how it did, except I saw the opportunity that Lopez might crack him. Like he did, but, to greater effect.
Yeah.
But I mean, dude, Volk's so technically sound, and I kind of had the feeling that he was going to quite literally run circles around Lopez. Lopez just, I mean, that fight showed, and I'm not saying this wasn't a big win for Volk, right? It absolutely is, and Lopez is definitely a dangerous contender, but we saw a lot of like the limits in his game. You know what I mean? Like he doesn't have the ability to move as well as an elite level striker should. Like he's not able to cut someone off to his left. He doesn't have the tools, whether that's a long slapping 3 or a spinning hook kick. You know what I mean? Like he's got holes, right? Which all fighters do. But I think he showed that at the level he's at, it's a little too much.
See, I want to stay on this fight a little longer because I also want to talk about Volk's last 2 fights. And Max, I really want you involved in this discussion. So unmute your mic, have it ready to rock. what areas do you think like Volk really like what areas in which was this fight won? Okay, so like just off like what I'm thinking is like volume and accuracy, right? Are big on this.
Yeah.
Okay, volume and accuracy, but I think also it's just like cage position.
Movement,
right?
yes.
Like
Huge.
and like movement like always staying in like an advantage, mostly always staying in like an advantage position. And I'm seeing a trend, I feel like, where like I often use the term warning track, and it doesn't necessarily have to actually be the warning track.
Right.
But like in the UFC cage is so big, it's like hard to say center.
Yeah.
Right? Like because like there's a lot of space between the center and the warning track. But I would say that most of the time I'm seeing a lot of success out of fighters whose back is to the center. Right? Like you're across the 50-yard line, essentially.
Yep.
And I'm seeing a lot of success there. And I mean, logistically, it makes a lot of sense.
Absolutely. The other guys, movement is absolutely limited. And because MMA is such a defensively movement-based sport, you take away that movement and people's games are very limited. And again, also kind of going back to like what people's skill sets are. Most MMA fighters don't have the skills that like an elite level boxer might have to sit in the pocket and roll with punches. You know what I mean? At the level that they do, which makes sense because they have to learn a bunch of other stuff too.
Yeah.
And because people usually lack that kind of defense, or even like a Thai style defense where you just stand real tall and you're, like shin blocking kicks and whatever. But like most people don't have that in the pocket style defense. So again, you take away their ability to move away from you, and you've taken away the vast majority of their defense. Makes total sense.
Max?
For Volkanovski, I think the biggest things that he won the fight, like doing two things mainly. It was like circling, and Lopez just could not cut him off.
Yep.
To the point where I was like almost shocked watching it because I love Lopez, and I was like, dude, every time you back him up with a 1, 2, 3 or whatever, and then he just circles off, and he's just letting him circle. And
Lopez just pivoted on his front foot, pivot.
Lopez spent the entire time. He looked like those dolls on like the rotating thing. You know, like in the storefront. The ballerina.
When you open the box.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
He was just rotating the whole time. And I'm like, dude, you can't win like that. And for the other thing offensively for Volk was, I felt like, especially in the first 3 rounds, he was doing a really good job of going first and third, and Lopez was constantly going second.
Yep.
Volk would come in, Lopez would look to counter with something, Volk was doing a real good job getting out of the way, and then he was popping him on the exit.
Yeah.
You know what I
And
mean?
whether he hit him first or just fainted first, he's still, like Mike said, leading the show, leading the dance.
Yeah, leading. And Warren often talks like, I mean, it translates to any combat sport, but like the gift of initiation.
Yes.
Right? Like when you initiate the sequence, whether it be grappling or striking, I'm assuming, there's a gift into that, right? Like, yeah. So, I mean, that's pretty much the moral of the story here. And like Max saying, like going like first and third, like that kind of reference point, like what happens then is you end up tallying more strike opportunities, right? Mm-hmm. That's more opportunities to land, it's more opportunities that something good happens.
Exactly.
So yeah. You guys got anything else to add to the fight specifically?
I have some things around the fight. Like I kind of want to talk about like what maybe is next for Lopez and Volk, but
well, yeah, I want to do that too, but
got you. But yeah, no, about the fight itself, just like super impressed with Volk. I think that like for any young fighters, like maybe some of our fighters who might be watching, looking at Volk as like something that you can replicate is really important. You know what I mean? Like he's not doing things that are like
uniquely it's like the whole
John
I don't know if I ever said it on the podcast, but I have an affinity towards George St. Pierre.
Right.
And I often use him for an example to the fighters because he's replicable.
Exactly. Whereas John Jones isn't because of the
I'm not going to be like, Max, do this thing that John Jones does. And like, well, he can't. He doesn't have the body type for it.
Right.
Right? Or do this thing that Izzy does. Like, okay, you don't have like the athleticism or slickness for it, but Volk and George St. Pierre, they're replicable.
Yes,
you can recreate that.
It's technique, tactics, strategy that they are using at a really high level that you can absolutely steal from.
Yes,
one of the most fascinating things I think about Volk, and we were saying this when we were watching the fights, was like how he's got a size and reach, or at least a size disadvantage on pretty much everybody, and he's out jabbing everyone.
Yes.
That's
Jabbing.
crazy. That
Yes.
is crazy.
He's out jabbing Lopez. He just out jabs
I
everybody.
believe his reach actually isn't that small compared to everyone else's.
It's not, but his height is like.
But yeah, but and
His frame is
But
so
those are
much
different things.
smaller.
But also, but no, but your point 100% stands is that like he just does it right. He times it properly.
Yeah.
He's in and out properly.
He's the best example of like, no, you're not just like jabbing because you're taller. Like you can still jab if you're the smaller guy.
Mm-hmm. And he's not afraid to jab hands, shoulders. Like he uses those things to control. Like you were saying, being first and third, it doesn't mean that the first one necessarily lands, but it means that it's initiating the entire sequence. That then if you land at the end, especially with multiple shots, you're winning. So yeah, he's just awesome at that. I can't say enough good things about Volk.
It really kind of puts into perspective the importance of a jab and the value of a good jab. Because like you see like a tall guy like with like a nice jab, like give me somebody, you know, like
Tommy Hearns.
yeah, right? And you're like, oh, well, he's tall and long. It's a great weapon, right? It's like a natural weapon for him. But you see somebody, you know, small and stocky using it, right? And it's just like, you know, it's like, whoa, it's like this is not like a specialist thing, and it just like really emphasizes the importance of that tool.
Dude,
Is it the most important tool in striking?
I mean, I can't see much of an argument against. I mean, if you want to make an argument that like base and movement is its own tool, like maybe that's more important.
Okay,
But like in terms of which strikes are most important, man, you gotta say it's the jab. I mean, I can't think of.
Man, that's crazy. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. All right, cool. So, we're good to move on from the fight and start talking around the fight.
Let's do it.
Now, people were down on Volk, right? They're like, oh, he got knocked out in his last two fights, this and that. And like, dude, like I just didn't really see the fall off all like that. Okay. Like, first off, he got head kicked by Islam and then he got knocked out by Topuria, right? Islam,
Beast.
I mean, like John Jones, Islam, number one for pound. It's one of those two, right? So you're talking about number 2 pound for pound, right?
Not to mention he's huge.
Yeah, he's huge. And then, and like Topuria, okay, like guess what? Like these dudes can knock each other out. Like
Yes.
that's what happens at the top level. Like they can both beat each other,
Right.
You know, and like let's think about the fight before that. Islam, right? Was Islam? Did he go back
twice.
to back with
Yeah.
Islam?
That's right. And that first one was
Wasn't
super
it like
close.
super close?
Yeah.
With the pound for pound at
Yeah.
the time, the pound for pound number one, because I think Jones was inactive, but maybe
Mm-hmm.
at that time. So one of the top pound for pound guys up a weight class to the point. Yeah, it was because they were number 1 and number 2 pound for pound.
Yep.
Right. And to the point where even after losing, there was a strong argument to be made for Volk to be number 1 pound for pound.
Right, exactly.
Right. Because he's like, oh, it's razor thin, and he's the weight class below. So like as far as pound for pound,
Right.
you're saying all things equal, like them being the same weight, like, you know, same weight class, then like, you know, likely like if you made Islam as small as Volk or Volk as big as Islam, you would likely favor Volk in a matchup that mirrored the fight, that first fight.
Right.
So, I mean, like you can't just do that and then just like fall the whole way off the face of the earth like that.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess you can.
Well,
but,
so
like,
the counter argument to that is that regardless of how like high quality the opponents were, is the damage still accumulated, and that's the reason why at plus money I took Diego, because I was like, Father Time does catch us all eventually,
But did
not
the damage,
Volk.
did the damage really accumulate like that? Because here's the thing. When
Also
did
the
he
time
fight?
off.
When? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. When
Yeah.
okay, so when he got head kicked by Islam, right, which was on short notice, you know, jumping in, and then he fought Topuria, what, 3-4 months after that? Like, what was the break between Islam Topuria fight?
It's too short.
It would have been October to February.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
was
exactly what
that?
you said.
November, December, January, February, 4 months. 4 months after, right? And then you got February to April. Yeah, I forgot what month it was.
Yeah,
I almost said
me
May.
too, dude.
I almost said May, right? Could you imagine being in school and forgetting what month it was? Like I knew, like it's like what day? What's the date? Like when you're in school, like it's like so important because you're like, oh
Yeah, I never
like
knew.
like we got like, oh really?
Oh,
In
I was
school?
always that kid like, yo, what's the day?
That's crazy. Man, I couldn't imagine living my life so aloof.
Welcome to my life.
Yeah. But yeah, so plenty of time off to recover for that, you know. So I think this fight was the telling fight on if Father Time had caught him yet or had not. So let's push. What's next for these guys?
Dude, that's what's interesting. Actually, Max, would you pull up the rankings? Because that's going to tell us a good bit. Lopez, in my mind, kind of like fast tracked it to the title, right? Partially because he was like available, partially because, Taporia drops off and he was on that big, streak. So obviously he's good. I just feel like he maybe, I don't want to say skip steps. You get what I'm saying, right? Like there's fresh blood in here for him to fight, What do you mean?
How is Ilya Taporia?
They don't get updated until Tuesday.
I thought his belt was already dropped.
That doesn't start until he steps into the cage, I believe, right? Isn't that
it? They said on the broadcast that the featherweight belt would be vacated the first second of Volkanovski and Lopez.
Okay.
Okay. I misunderstood it. I thought it was when Taporia started fighting.
But these will all get updated tomorrow.
Then how would
how would he get the title? Yeah, no, that makes sense.
All right, so here goes what I see. All right, so we got Volk as the champ. We're now, regardless of who you want him to fight, I believe he is going to be end up fighting Evloev.
Yeah, that sounds right.
That sounds
because why else would Evloev turn down Pico?
I'm from the rumblings I'm hearing, and Max could be more of a barrier of like hard facts here. But I'm hearing that it's Evloev. Now you got Yair Rodriguez coming off of a nice win over Patricia Pitbull.
Pitbull.
And it's like, okay, you can run him and Lopez, right? Or if you're giving me what I want, I want Lopez Aljo.
Okay, I was about to be like, no, I got one better for you, but no, dude, you're right. That's the move.
Lopez,
and then you and I
Aljo.
can talk mad shit on
I
Max. The one I was gonna say was have Murphy fight Lopez.
Nothing would make me happier than a Lopez Aljo fight. Although, I mean, I like Lopez though.
For us, I think that would be the best fight, right?
Yeah.
Because we would get to revisit an old conversation. But in terms of like if I was actually working at the UFC, I would go Lopez and Murphy.
I have a take here. I think that if Lopez would have won that fight, I think that Evloev would not have fought for the title next.
They already fought, right? Evloev's the only guy who beat him. In the UFC.
Besides Alexander Volkanovski.
Right, yeah, until this weekend. I bet they would still do that for the rematch. You don't think so? What do you think they would have done instead?
I think they would have done September in Mexico, Yair versus Lopez.
Oh, why didn't I think of that? Yeah, you're right.
With the heat that popped off at the press conference.
Oh, dude, you're so right.
Yair calling for it and like the Mexico connection.
Dude, yeah, and honestly, they might still do that for as a title eliminator.
That's what I'm afraid of because I want that Aljo fight. I want that Lopez Aljo fight. But I don't think they're going to do that because...
Dude, why didn't I think of that? Yeah, of course that's a big fight that they're going to maybe put out there. Yeah, I don't know. Okay, what about Volk? So obviously we think Evloev's next. Let's say that for whatever reason Evloev isn't next, whether the UFC is just like he's too
Okay, here goes what I want.
Okay.
Let me run this. All right. Volk versus Evloev. That's what I want, right? Because I think it makes sports sense.
Yes.
And also, I think Volk beats him, and I'm trying to get Volk some more dubs and wins right now.
Yep.
Volk Evloev, Lopez Aljo, and then a number one contenders fight in Mexico in September. Yair Rodriguez versus Lerone Murphy.
Also, keep in mind, Pico is in the mix here.
Pico needs 3 wins
before he's fighting these guys.
No. He can get in the mix here, but he's not on those dudes yet.
Gotcha.
Right? I mean, well, I guess he is because he was matched up with Evloev, but
dude, you know what?
But put him against like Ortega or Arnold Allen. You know what I mean? Like
Ige. Right? The fan base is looking at Ige as like the ultimate gatekeeper now, right? Pico's and quote unquote untested UFC
Ige is
star.
not going to move. Ige is going to move up in the rankings because Ige might not even move up in the rankings. He might not even move up.
Yeah.
Okay, because you figure Bryce Mitchell's going to drop, right? But Jean Silva's going to enter.
Oh yeah.
Right? So Ige might actually get pushed out of the rankings. I could see them not unranking Bryce Mitchell. Like Bryce Mitchell dropping to like 15 and Jean Silva jumping into like 13.
I don't think that's going to happen, but I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, speaking of rankings.
Well, because like how would you yeah, like all right, like who would you rank higher, Bryce Mitchell or Dan Ige? Right, Bryce Mitchell.
Nah, you're making a good point now.
Even
actually.
after this weekend,
Yeah.
right? Like I'd still rank Bryce Mitchell higher than Dan Ige.
Yeah. If we're being honest with ourselves, yeah.
And Bryce does have a win over Ige in the last like 2 years.
Yeah. So right there, so like
That's a good point.
So honestly, what I could see happening is, what's his name, Jean Silva, jumping into 13, Bryce going to 14, Calvin Cater to 15. That's what I could see happening.
You don't think that they would bump Cater out of the rankings?
They could do
That's.
I mean, he hasn't won in a couple of years.
Kind of what I was afraid of.
that. So maybe Cater out and keep Ige in. Yeah.
That does make sense. As much as I love Calvin Cater,
Mike, regarding Pico, do you think that when he comes in, do you think that they put him in like a 3-rounder on a pay-per-view, or do you think they have him headline like a fight night right off the bat?
So was the
does it matter who
Avoya
it's
fight
against?
going to be a headline of a fight night? Was that going to headline that fight night?
That's what it was. That's what the rumors were, but like that didn't get far enough along. I don't know if there was even a contract signed for that fight. You know,
So that was just rumored. It didn't like jump. Okay.
Yeah.
I think you bring Pico in and you put him on a pay-per-view. You put him like, like fight 2 or a fight 1 or 2 on a pay-per-view.
Yeah.
Like he either leads off the pay-per-view. He'd be a good lead-off hitter on a pay-per-view.
Yeah, he would.
Honestly, International Fight Week. Are we overvaluing Pico right now, though? Like, I know we're not overvaluing his skill.
that's kind of the question.
I know we're not overvaluing his
Do you
skill,
think
but
he's
is
got the
he...
star power to like headline, or do you have to give him kind of?
I don't think he has the star power to headline. And
I don't think yet, but I think one good performance could send him into the stratosphere.
So what I'm saying is, like, right now we're all like, oh, Pico. But I bet you there's a large group of MMA fans who are like, who?
Exactly.
Right? But we're like, oh my God, Pico's in the
Right,
UFC.
yeah.
Pico's in the UFC. We're like freaking out because we know.
We've been high on Pico for what, a decade? Like,
Yeah. Dude. Yeah, no, seriously.
Okay, hold on. I've got 2 questions that aren't related to this fight at all still, though, which is, one, who do we have Pico, or let me ask you, who do you want Pico to fight? And then secondly, do we want to take a quick little tangent and talk about the rankings and what could potentially happen with them? Because they suck.
I want Pico to fight Brian Ortega or Arnold
Oh,
Allen.
that's interesting.
Either one of them. Now, that's who I want. Maybe he should fight Youssef Zalal first.
I don't think that they have him fight Zalal because Zalal has the style to potentially make it a, quote, boring fight. I don't think so. Is Giga, is he, I think he's booked, right?
Let me check on that.
I swear he's matched up already, but that would be an interesting fight.
I think like you give him an introduction fight, but I feel like it's got to be a ranked fighter.
I agree.
Dude,
I
honestly, maybe Ige. Maybe it is Ige.
I think Ige makes a lot of sense.
And Ige fights all the time. He's down. He don't give a shit. He'll fight anybody.
He'll make it
Fucking
exciting.
Open up the pay-per-view on International Fight Week, dude. Ige versus Pico. There's the introduction. After that, Pico jumps up and fights like
now he's in the rankings, and then he can get like a big time fight, and then potentially he wins that a title fight.
Because you don't need to slow play Pico. He's like
he's there. Yeah, he's polished.
He's there. You just need to. It's about a fan introduction right now.
Exactly.
Like that's it. You don't need to like build him.
And that's
like
why
the way that they built the way they were kind of doing with like Bo and the way that they did with Sean O'Malley,
right?
Where they get some unranked fights.
Exactly.
Like Pico's,
he's already at that level.
He's ready to fire off.
And that's why I thought Ige made a lot of sense, because the fan view of Ige is that he's a gatekeeper. You know what I mean? Which I think is pretty accurate. You know.
You know what's crazy about Pico though is I think Bo Nickel is older than Pico.
Wait, really?
I would guess. If I had to guess, I would say that Bo Nickel is 1 year older than Aaron Pico.
That actually makes sense, because I always think of Pico as being older than he is, and I always think of Bo as being younger than he is. Bo's not that young.
Well,
I think he's like
Bo graduated college in 2019. So he took a redshirt year, though, in 2015, then wrestled 16, 17, 18, 19. So I'm guessing he graduated college at 23 because it's his 5th year. So 23, 24 in 2019. So now it's 2025. Bo's probably 28.
Yeah.
29. Max, can we get some birthdays on these boys?
Yeah, you were right. Pico's 28, Bo's 29.
Yeah. But it's crazy, right? Because you're like, oh, Pico.
Yeah.
You know?
He's like a vet of the sport at this point, you know?
Yeah.
But, okay, so You agree Ige is a really good choice for Pico when he comes in. Do we want to take a quick sidetrack and talk about the rankings, why they suck, and what could potentially be coming up? Because
if you want to.
Because so Dana said what? That they're partnering with Meta.
Oh yeah, so they're doing what's that mean?
So right, so what does that mean? So in my opinion, we have a little bit of inside information, right? Like Meta came to our gym and
that's right.
Yeah,
gosh, we're on the whole inside of this.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like we
Whoa.
we legit have some inside information here. So
I forgot how much I don't care about things.
Yeah,
I completely forgot about it.
So they showed up to our gym, right? And they did some like motion tracking. Maybe we throw in a picture or something of this. Basically what they did is they set up a whole bunch of cameras in a circle on tripods and everything. And then they did some calibration. They like throw a ball in there or whatever. And then they throw our guys in with glasses on, which was hilarious too, because you could tell like the scientists were like removed from like combat sports, at least to some degree, because they're like, all right, so yeah, if you guys could just like, you know, fight each other like with these glasses on, but don't hit the glasses. And we're like, all right, bro. And then yeah, they did some motion tracking, and I was under the impression that like, okay, I'm sure that Zuckerberg has some interest in MMA, and so he's just like trying to get some information. Maybe they're gonna make a video game or like a AR type of space or game or development of some sort, and like they're just getting the prelim motion capture technology down. But now this has me thinking, like, what if they use this for advanced stat calculation in the cage, and they use that for more accurate representations of who actually should be where in the ranking. So if you're like, hey, this guy should be 5 and this guy should be 6, and you're like, no, it should be the other way around, then we can pull out more specific stats.
How would the stats give you that?
So let's say that we have these two guys who are, you know, super, super close. They're both whatever, 10 and 0.
We're about to fly off right now. Let's go.
They're both, you know, they both average however many strikes per minute. They both average X amount of takedowns. Like they're neck and neck, and you need something to, you know, have one guy better than the other. This could potentially give us that data.
In my opinion, in my experience, that is not something you can use for ranking. That is not something you should use for ranking.
Break it down.
So for ranking, it is literally about who you have beaten, right? Mm-hmm. It's not about projecting what you would be or what you will do.
Right.
It's about who you have beaten. So when you come in, if you have no data behind you, you can't be ranked. The only way you can be ranked is by climbing the rankings
and beating ranked guys.
Eventually like beating ranked guys or beating. So here goes the thing. It's about the pool you're in as well. You're being ranked against the pool that you are in, right? For example, Max, give me a featherweight outside of the rankings.
Anyone? David Onama.
All right, so I don't even know who that is. I'm sorry. I'm sure he's a great fighter.
That's who Giga Chikadze is fighting in 2 weeks from now.
Okay, now check this out. What should he be ranked? He probably shouldn't, right? He's never done anything like of that caliber to be ranked there. Okay, now, but it's against the pool. So if all 15 of those guys retired today, now he might be ranked third. Right? Because you go, oh, here goes what we have left. Okay, he beat this guy who beat that guy, and these guys beat this guy, and this guy beat this guy, And you're like, oh, okay. Now we have a whole new set of rankings, right? Like right now, we could eliminate those guys, take the rest of the roster, the UFC roster. It gets a lot harder to rank because you don't have as many data points because a lot of those guys didn't all hit each other and have less fights and stuff. But we could build a ranking. Right? And then from that, essentially, we could be like, okay, here goes 16 through 30.
Right.
You know what I mean? It would take time and thought and consideration and like, you know, troubleshooting and be like, okay, so why should he be ranked 16? Oh, no, but he lost to the dude who we have ranked 22. And it's like, oh, but that's okay, actually, because the dude who we have ranked 22 lost to this guy who is ranked 30, but that guy beat the guy who's ranked, like, you know what I mean?
So
like,
do you think that Meta maybe is introducing like an algorithm that figures those sorts of things out and makes it a little bit more...
I think it needs to be there needs to be a human element. I mean, maybe I don't have a great understanding of what AI can do, but I think there does need to be like, I think maybe you use an algorithm or something of that nature, and then you have human oversight afterwards.
I think that would make a lot of sense, actually.
You know what I mean?
Because, okay, so what I was just thinking there when you were saying that is like when someone loses. So, for example, who's recently lost? Diego Lopez, right? So he was ranked third, right? And he just lost. Sometimes guys lose and they go down like one spot. Sometimes guys lose and they go down multiple spots. So maybe that's the kind of thing that like an algorithm might be able to help.
Well, it depends
figure
on
out.
who you lost to.
Right, exactly. If you lose to the 15, you're probably going to go down more than if you lose to the 7.
And here goes where so originally I would say that you need like no like it's just like cold and hard, right? It's like, okay, right? I beat you, you beat Max, and I beat Max. All right, I should be ranked first. I beat both of you. You beat Max, so you should be ranked second, and Max is third. Okay. What if we rock paper scissors that shit?
Right, exactly.
Right. I beat you, you beat Max, and Max beat me.
Right.
But I kind of handled you. You kind of handled Max, and I was handling Max, and then he clipped me. Right.
Right.
It's like, okay, well, who's first, second, and third? Well, right there, you're like, oh, it's a 3-way tie. There's nothing we can do. Right. Now you get the human element in. You're like, yeah, Mike still won, Will 2, Max 3.
So yeah, that might be why they're going to have like a stat collection type of AI and technology to figure out those sorts of things. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
again, in that rock, paper, scissors, they might make like a, what do they call it in wrestling? A dominance score?
Yeah.
Yeah, they might have things like that. I don't know. I'm pretty interested to see where it goes.
So why I don't think you can use like strikes and takedowns and stuff like that. I think that's like,
So subjective.
it's so subjective. It's
Yeah.
too in the gray, right? Like if you're using strikes, all right, well then, okay, well now Khabib's going to get hit on rankings when he still should be the
Right,
best.
yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, okay. Or even if you're a striker, but then you fight a grappler, right? Your number of strikes that fight are definitely way down,
Right.
Right? But then you got 2 strikers and they're just bumping their stats,
Yeah.
So I don't think you can use things like that. What I think you can use is like, unfortunately, but you can use like scorecards, right? You can be
Well.
like, okay, this is a finish.
Right.
This was a first round finish, a second round finish, a third round finish, and so forth. This was a shutout. This was a split decision.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So what I'm thinking in terms of like stat collection that kind of you were touching on here is like the difference in quality of like strikes landed or takedowns or whatever, right? And that's why I'm wondering, do they have technology that we can't even imagine right now that is able to like see like, okay, so you land a strike, and they'd be able to calculate this, right, by like how fast your hand is moving, and they could estimate based on like your size how many how many newtons are in that punch, right, how much force, and then they could look at like where it lands on your head specifically. So like maybe they're able to target. They're like, okay, this
Is this
shot
for
landed up
ranking
here
or judging?
for their
ranking?
rankings, right? And then they're like, okay, this strike landed up here, this strike landed up down here. Based on our algorithm, this is worth this much. You know what I mean? Like it might be like way more in depth. With that said, no matter how in-depth it is currently, I still really like your idea of having human oversight. I think that's going to be necessary. But also, we have no idea what this might mean. It also just might mean they do the exact same rankings, but now it's sponsored by Meta, and Dana's like, oh, now our rankings are good. Like we have no idea. But we do have a little bit of that inside information in that they are doing some motion capture technology. Who knows what they do with it?
Yeah. All right. Let's go down. Let's get off this fight. Or,
I agree. Yeah, dude.
We spent so much time on this same fight that the video cut.
This
Whoa.
is gonna be a long pod, but this is gonna be a fun one.
Whoa. Michael Chandler, Paddy Pimblett.
Dude, this really surprised me.
Man, it
And
surprised me.
It was the story that I thought was going to happen with Volk. Father Time has caught up to Michael Chandler.
Has it?
I do.
Is it Father Time or is it Paddy Pimblett?
Okay, so it's both, right? And I've seen arguments both ways. I've seen people be like, "Oh, Paddy didn't look that good. Michael Chandler looked bad." And I've seen some people who are like, "Oh, Chandler didn't look bad. Pimblett looked really great." I think it's a little bit of both. I think Pimblett is better than we think he is. He's already proved that to me. I did not think he was that good, and then he's just constantly been winning and looking good doing so. And I think in leading up to this, I was like, he's better than I thought he was, but he's not good enough to beat Chandler. He clearly is, dude. He's way better than I thought he was. With that said, I do think we saw a diminished Chandler. Now, the question is, was it Father Time or did Paddy crack him early?
I don't know.
Me either.
I don't know. Man, I just was like so impressed with Paddy.
Yeah.
It's hard to look. Well, I don't know. It's hard to look at like what the tipping point was because there was so much like going on with Paddy. Although he did lose the first round.
What happened in the first round? Did he got taken down, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Or did he retake him down at the end of the first round?
I can't remember now.
Max, do you remember how the first round ended?
I should have reviewed my notes.
The first round ended. They ended up back on the feet. And that was when I texted you guys. I was like, Chandler looks hurt because he was winning the first round.
That's
and
right. And then he just disengaged that whole time.
Okay,
That's right.
yeah. That's right. All right.
Yeah, but either way, it's hard to tell, like you said, how good. And the other thing, okay, hold on. While we're talking about Patty, right, and his skills, something that I kind of look like I viewed as a detriment that might actually be good is his strikes. I used to view as slow, and I still think they are relatively slow, but they're also off rhythm. You know what I mean? And because of that, I don't know at the higher levels if that's still going to serve him well or if it's going to be a detriment. Like, there's still so many interesting questions about Patty, you know? This fight, like, it told us a lot, or let me put it this way. It told me a lot that Patty's better than I thought, but I still don't know how good. You know what I mean?
I saw Hanato Moicano tweet 2024 Patty Pimblett, easy money.
Right.
2025 Patty Pimblett, not easy money.
Yeah, dude. Like, I think everyone knows he's better than we thought. But okay, let me ask you this. I know Chandler was ranked, 7 going into this or something like that, right? He was somewhere around there. Do you actually believe he belonged at that ranking?
Absolutely.
You think so?
I absolutely do. Pull the rankings up.
And I don't mean stats wise, like he beat this guy, he lost to this guy. I mean skill wise. Do you believe he was a top 10 guy?
Absolutely.
Interesting. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So
100%.
Where was
Other
he?
than
7, yeah.
But like literally, like he has wins over guys ranked. He has a win over a guy ranked ahead of him, and other than that, he's only fought people ranked ahead of him. He has, other than Tony Ferguson, right. All his fights, he fought Dan Hooker, Dustin Poirier, Justin Gaethje, Charles Oliveira.
Now, when was his last fight before this? Was it Gaethje?
It would have been Oliveira last November.
Yeah, that's right.
The big.
Yeah. That's right. Okay.
Which was like,
yeah.
I mean, look, he lost that fight,
but he didn't look bad.
He didn't look bad. Like, he lost for sure. He
Definitely.
lost. It was not like, I'm not like saying like, oh. Like,
but you didn't look at that and go like, oh, he doesn't belong in the top 10.
I also didn't look at it and go, he could beat him. Right? I mean, like, you could in the fact that anybody could.
Right.
I was like, yeah, Charles Oliveira is better, but like Michael Chandler's like,
still top 10. So Patty wins. Man, I don't know.
Okay, here goes what I want to know. All right, Michael Chandler. So going into Saturday night.
Yeah.
All right, who are you taking? Okay, this is your mind. Last Friday.
Yeah.
Michael Chandler or Beneil Dariush?
Chandler.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. What about Gamrot though?
I would probably say Gamrot, but like
I'd take Gamrot.
Yeah. Okay. But like,
but it's gonna be a split decision, and
like you think like, oh, did you have to think about it, or were you like, oh, easy win?
Oh, I had to think about it. Yeah.
So like, being ranked 8th, 7th, and 8th, like, does that strike you? Okay. What do you think about Jared Cannonier and Roman Dolidze? You're like, right. About what you should. What do you think about like Khalil Roundtree and Nikita? Well, now,
right. I get what you're saying.
Like two people ranked right next to each other. It should be like
Buckley and Gary. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you're like, oh, I'm not sure.
So since you're not sure, you're like, okay, so this is probably pretty accurate, right?
Yeah. No, I agree with that. Now,
and I mean, you're not going to argue Gamrot out of the top 10 or Dariush out of the top 10.
Absolutely
right?
not. And you know what's crazy? After this fight, I still go, Chandler, Dariush, not sure. But now I'm like, Gamrot smokes Chandler.
Dude, yeah.
But anyways, okay, so do you have anything else to say about the fight itself? I mean, the fight was just pretty self-explanatory.
Man, I just couldn't believe how good Patty was. Like,
yeah.
Yeah. He's never given us a reason to think that he was that good before. And now part of it is based off of who he has been fighting. He has not been fighting at that level. For us to think he could do that to someone at that level.
Exactly.
But I think it's beyond that. I think it's not just like, oh, we didn't get to see it. I think he did like jump levels himself.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I think Patty last night smokes Patty last year.
Definitely.
You know what I mean?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, that I can 100% agree with. And honestly, because of that consistent improvement, I wouldn't be surprised if he gives us another big upset against one of these like top ranked guys now. I don't think he will, but I've been a Patty doubter this whole time, and I've been proved wrong. So and and I'm at negative units. So
Who do you want Patty to fight next? Let's do just Patty and then move on.
okay, Patty, I would like to see against Gaethje, or against maybe Holloway's done it that weight class.
What about Oliveira?
I would like to see other things for Oliveira.
Like who? Who do you want to see Oliveira fight?
I think Oliveira should either go. If I was again running the show here, I would either put him in a title shot or I'd have him fight Topuria.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, that's what I would do with Oliveira. I would have.
You know, and I'm not going to argue against that, but I would like to see, like, okay, if it's just Patty, no one's
stylistically though. I think that's a great fight.
No one's fighting but Patty, right?
Okay, yeah, we don't just factor in
everybody else is sitting on the bench. You're either fighting Patty or sitting on the bench.
Dude,
Who's he fighting?
That's what's great about Patty. I don't think there's any bad fights here. Armin's a great fight. Oliveira's a great fight. Gaethje's a great fight.
The one that I want to see the most though is Oliveira. I would go. My first pick would be Oliveira. My second pick would be Gaethje.
Because the jiu-jitsu would be insane in that fight. Yeah, it would. It really would. Dude, his jiu-jitsu, man, he's good, man.
Man, I love seeing that number 1 next to Sean Brady's name at the 170-pound rankings. Love it.
That does look good. What's interesting? I think the fight that has the least to gain for Patty and the most to lose is Hooker, because I think Hooker has the style to beat Patty more so than some of the other guys, because like I could see him drawing him into some wild stuff.
Yeah.
And obviously Hooker's not as respected as the Gaethjes, the Oliveira's, not as high in the rankings. I don't know what they're gonna do with him. I would guess either Gaethje or maybe Hooker. I could see Sarukian.
What
as
about
well.
Patty versus Colby Covington?
I don't see them doing that. I mean, it's fun, but I don't see them doing that.
Okay.
Honestly, now that I'm looking at it, I think they give him Sarukian. I think the UFC's not happy with Sarukian. I think they look at it as a way to blast Patty straight up into stardom.
I think Patty's going to come in. I think Patty's going to jump to 6. I think they're going to put him over Dan Hooker.
After this fight?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Well, because you have the Michael Chandler, Dan Hooker. Michael Chandler has a win over Dan Hooker, So
that's right.
I think you could argue it.
Yeah, you can MMA math it. Yeah, I mean, dude, also the rankings, like, you do whatever you want with them, so.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Let's go to the next fight.
Yeah, I'm calling that, though. I think they give him Sarukian next.
Cool. Yair Rodriguez versus Patricio Pitbull.
Man, it's a bummer that a lot of UFC fans they don't know how good Pitbull is, or was, Obviously, he's older now.
Yeah.
What was that face for? Do you think he hasn't diminished, and you think Yair just beat?
How long ago was it that he fought Sergio Pettis?
Ooh, I want to say like 2 years or something.
I want to say it's been less than 2 years. I'd say like 15 to 20 months.
He fought Pettis in June of 2023.
It's 21 months. Fuck.
Yeah, you were close.
Or that's 22 months ago. Yeah, dang. Whatever.
We were in the ballpark.
In the ballpark. Okay. You were closer than me, so you won. No, Price is Right rules. You went over, so you're out.
There
I was
you go.
closer without going over. Everybody knows the rules. All right. That fight was super close.
I'm trying to think of how I scored. Maybe it's because I was really digging Yair's style, but I saw him just like.
No. It was Patricia.
And Pettis.
And Sergio Pettis.
Got you. Sorry, I thought you were arguing that. I was like, I had Yair the whole way, dude. I'm trying to see it your way.
That fight was super close.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yo, Sergio Pettis was a flyweight, dog.
Yeah.
He was a flyweight.
Yeah.
So that's just crazy to me. But yeah. So I'm like living with that in my head. But then I'm also remembering like some of his really great fights, which were like a while ago.
Yeah, like he
and then I'm
knocked
thinking
out
about
Chandler at
Yair,
lightweight.
and like I come into this fight and I'm like, dude, like I cannot see him beating Yair Rodriguez. I cannot see it.
That's kind of where I was at. Like I think age has caught up to him. Yair's really good. Now Yair he hasn't fought in like a year as well, and he's only lost his past 2, I believe, but he's also fought elite guys. I could see how you could, coming into it, make the argument that it could be close, but I definitely had the feeling that...
Yeah, how about Yair going back step to cross Ashi?
Bro.
Double trouble.
Bro.
And separating for the inside heel hook.
Dude,
he would have got it. He let both of his knees point to the left at a point in time where his inside, like the leg nearest to Patricio's hips, should have opened up. And like, bro, I think he knows what he's doing,
Dude.
Right? Like that's a mistake. Like sometimes, like you feel like you need to point your knees to that way to
feels like you're
maintain the
pinching.
connection of for like the pinch.
Dude, you showed me
And that-
exactly this like a couple months ago.
Oh, about opening.
when you were
it
like,
up.
you open your legs, and I was like, wait, why can't I move now? This doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, you're like, I thought I would pinch here.
Yeah.
Like, no, you open here, right? And yeah, dude, like
okay,
that was so cool.
dude, it was so sick. Also, the timing on when he went for it in the round, it was right at the end. So it's like, okay, he's not giving up too much positionally if he messes up. And he hadn't done
if you're
anything.
cross Ashi, like you're not giving up a lot positionally because it's hard for them to advance positionally.
And because of the double trouble.
Yeah. Like if someone's going to positionally advance, like, okay, there's always a chance for one side
Right.
or the other. But I would say it's like you're looking at like 85-15.
Right.
Like that you're going to be the one who advances.
Right. And also,
right?
I imagine Yair would just, like, if that wasn't working, do what he did and just stand up. You know what I mean?
You got to think about these leg entanglements a little bit too, like kind of like in percentages, like 50-50. The position that's named
Right.
50-50 is like, about 50-50. Everything you can do, I can do. So each of us has a 50% chance to getting to the top. And then every leg entanglement from there on out has different chances, right? Like outside Ashi, right, is actually like for MMA not great. I mean, like you definitely can create some good
Right.
breaking power there. But I would say that the person who is on the defense in the outside Ashi has probably a high chance of ending up in the
Right.
superior
Right.
position post that, like if you're just hanging on to the outside Ashi.
Right.
But as soon as you start going cross, now you're controlling, like why do we view that so differently than we view like a good half guard?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Like actually, if we're in a good half guard, let's say I'm in a good knee shield half guard, your chest and hands are closer to my head than if I'm in a cross Ashi, right?
Right.
And what is it? It's the same thing. One of your legs between two of mine. Mm-hmm. But now I'm further away from you, right? So,
Dude, I'm really glad you brought up the detail of that control because I missed how he got out. I didn't see that, but I was losing my mind when that was going on. I was so sure he was going to finish.
dude.
I think I'm mixing it up. I might be mixing up the order, but he went for the one leg, right? Slides out, and then he grabbed the second leg, and he had heel. And I was like, oh, bro, he's going to finish this. Dude, that was such a sick... Dude, I'm so glad
I was
that happened.
super pumped about it, and it's crazy how like things like this can change like who you like. Now I'm like way more of a fan of Yair Rodriguez.
Oh,
after
dude!
that.
First off, I was already a fan of Yair, and he could have not done that, and I'd still be a big fan.
Bro, one of the coolest
That
things
was
about it
super
was
cool,
his,
though.
but like the coolest thing about it was his entry into
step
it.
over?
The back step, to it
Dude.
was so like slick jujitsu. It's like I was like, oh, this dude.
Okay,
This dude's doing jujitsu.
I'm so glad you said this because one, big theme for me over the past couple of weeks, jiu-jitsu's back in MMA. And secondly, like you said, the way he did the backstep, it was so slick. I was like, oh, this is actually interesting. You know, sometimes you see dudes jump on a heel hook late in a round and you're like, hey, he doesn't know what he's doing. You know what I mean? But like you said, it looked right. Like I was like, oh, this is calculated.
Bro.
He knows it's late in the round. He knows that Pitbull's probably not expecting him to do this. And he's just slapping it on there. And then, like you said, going through those positions, attacking one foot, attacking the other foot. Like I was really, really impressed with that.
Yep. Yeah. Same.
Now, moving into the strikes, unless you have more to say about that
No.
exchange.
Dude,
Dude.
I mean, that's the coolest thing that happened in the fight to me.
Yair's timing is great. His distance control is great. And you know what Yair does better than probably any MMA fighter I've seen as of late is he throws lower body combinations, right? This is something I've been yelling at our fighters about a lot, especially because we're entering like a kicking block and I'm having them
Yeah.
do a lot of like punch versus kick sparring. I'm like, guys, you can't just throw one kick at a time. It's got to be like, even if it's not just a kick, like obviously kick to a teep, great. Like Yair was using tools like that, but add your feints in there. Feint a kick, then the guy's not expecting it, boom, then land a kick, then hit a teep, then step back to get even more space, little angle, another kick. And that's what Yair does is he throws multiple lower body strikes. That's really, really difficult to deal with. He can throw combinations with his lower body the way that people think of throwing combinations with their upper body. So impressed with Yair. I'm excited for literally any fight that they give him after this. Yeah.
All right, let's go to the next one. All right,
Brother.
Bryce Mitchell versus Jean Silva.
So Mike's
Do we
favorite
even
fighter,
have anything to talk about this fight? Let's just move to the next one.
Jean Silva, Mike's favorite fighter of all time. I mean, he's so good, you have nothing to say, right?
Pretty much.
Tell us why you love Jean Silva.
Dude, I just like, he gives me the utmost cringe. Like, I just cannot. Dude, like Henry Cejudo to like the next level. Like, I don't know. Maybe a lot of it's lost in translation or something. And
No,
I
I
just
think
don't
it's-
understand what's going on.
I think he's just a weird
But
dude.
like, I'm just not a fan of and like, it's just not my flavor. You know what I mean?
No, just to be clear here, we're separating his flavor versus his fighting, right?
Right. So that brings an interesting off-bite point before we get back to this fight. How much does a fighter's personality play into if you like them or not?
A ton.
A ton.
A ton.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Like now we are also at, I believe, a technical level to where you can appreciate someone's technique outside of their personality.
Definitely.
And maybe who they are, which I definitely do with Jean Silva. Like crazy explosive. You could tell me more about like his striking and what you think of it. But I would say that the fact that he's not afraid to get taken down because he's got great hips and great front head attacks that dissuades the takedown. And also, he can get back up.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He can get back up as well. Dude, I've been there in practice, like where you need to take someone down, but every time you get to where you think you need to get, you're in danger.
Mm-hmm.
Like what we saw with Jean Silva throwing these front neck chokes onto Bryce Mitchell. Like it's just like, dude, you just feel like it's the most quicksand feeling you can feel in fighting.
Now, let me ask you this question. So the first time Bryce got in on the hips and John, whatever, he jumped that head inside, or sorry, the arm inside guillotine.
Yeah.
What did you think about that? Because in my mind, I was like, until I saw Bryce like working hard to get out of it, I did not think it was real.
So I initially on the jump, I was like, it's not on. And then like pretty much the same thing, like throughout the work, I was like, this is a threat. This is a threat. But what most impressed me of it is he basically used it to get up.
Yep.
Right? Like as soon as Bryce did clear, which was a struggle to clear, right? Created chest separation, boom, right up.
Yeah.
You know?
Now, do you think that someone like Silva has a really ideal body type for this weight class? Because like his arms aren't super short, but he's relatively short and he's so stocky that it looks like it's easy for him to, like you said, stand up, produce power, have heavy hips with his athleticism. Like, dude, I think he's a real problem at this weight class.
I mean, I'm excited. Like, I'm excited to watch his fights, but I don't need none of his lead up.
No, I would say I kind of agree with you.
For me, no, I totally get people are into it, and it like promotes for promotion and stuff. And there is part of it. There's part of both sides. Like, the sport needs people who like aren't everybody's cup of tea. You know.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I would say I'm a fan of his despite his antics, right? Like, I really like the kind of like Mauricio Ruffi, Caio Borralho, like their kind of attitude, which is like we're really intellectual towards this fight game.
I really like that. And that's just like, it's your flavor.
Right, exactly.
Right? It's like what I like, and like I like that too. I like the blue collar head down guy. You know what I mean? I'm not
being
super
a dog.
into I'm into like like Jean Silva's act. I'm not super into that. I'm not super into like a bunch of like the like maybe anime stuff. Like, I don't like it doesn't like I don't like hate it, but I'm just like I don't really get it.
It doesn't connect with you the
it
same
doesn't
way.
connect with me, right? If it connects with you, like that's cool. Like so I'm not like I could just like
yeah, that's neutral for you.
It.
Yeah, see, for me, Jean Silva, the way that he acts, I'm like, if that was someone else, I'd be like, come on, dude, that's kind of cringy. But there's a couple things that pull it back. One is his fighting. Two is the fact that he's attached to the fighting nerds, and I really like those guys. And so I'm like, behind his antics, I bet he actually is pretty smart. I hope so.
Like hanging on the cage, like in that like.
Yeah, that's not really my favorite thing. His little gargoyle pose there.
Oh, that gargoyle pose. That's okay. Yeah, and like making sure like getting the camera guy over for it and stuff. Which
I think that's kind of funny actually, but.
Okay.
But here's what I liked about him about this fight, dude. When he brought out the globe, to me, that is prime top level shit right there, dude.
I didn't think it. I thought it was like I was like, all right, dude.
Dude, to make fun of a guy for thinking the earth is flat, that's hilarious. Like,
yeah, for sure. And it's like, but like the way that like the joke came off to me would be like me being like, oh, your mom is so fat the ground shakes. Like, okay, dude, that was a trash joke, right?
Yeah.
But being like, oh, but your mom is actually fat, right? Like, you know what I mean? But like, yeah, but like,
right? No.
It was a trash joke.
I totally,
you know what I mean? Like,
totally
I was like, oh,
point.
cool, right? Like, I just didn't. I get the joke.
Yeah, for sure.
Right.
Just different
I
flavors, different
yeah.
flavors. Now, flavors aside, let's talk about his fighting, dude. Okay, so obviously incredible takedown defense, right? I think his timing and his range are also really good for his takedown defense. But like you said, his front head, his arm and guillotine, his regular guillotine, obviously his ninja choke, super, it makes people not want to shoot.
How
on
about
that.
how about the first half of the first round? Like Bryce was winning all the striking exchanges.
Yeah, that's
Right?
interesting.
But I could see it fading because there was so much like jitteriness and like
Yes.
neurological like movement. I was like, that's gonna fatigue him. Right? That's the whole like Wonder Boy thing, right?
Yep.
Wonder Boy, it's like fighting Wonder Boy. You're on so much like twitch and flinch that your nervous system is under attack. And like, dude, like Jean Silva was like whiffing. Like Bryce his head movement was on it, but it was too much of like a panic,
Overcorrections.
overcorrections and like panic motion. And I was like, oh, that's gonna wear on him. And
So-
I think it did.
I think that exactly what you said, Bryce is landing early, but he's not landing like big, crazy shots.
Yeah, he's not landing big crazy shots.
I think
and he
that's-
is getting out of the way. Like he is getting out of the way. Like a lot of Jean Silva's shots in that first half, that first round were missing.
Right. And I think that Silva.
And instead of it giving Bryce confidence,
Yes.
it actually. I know I'm not in his head, but what it looked like to me, instead of so there's occasions where you start like slipping, parrying, moving, rolling and stuff, and it gives you confidence. You're like,
Yep.
oh damn,
dude
you're
can't
like
hit me.
You're like, yeah, like you basically can't hit me, right? Like I'm gonna get out, and then all of a sudden you stop thinking about the strikes coming at you because your body is just gonna move out of the way.
Yep.
Like my head, like I don't got to think about it. My head's gonna do it for me. My head's gonna move out of the way. I don't got to think about it. My hand's gonna parry that punch for me. I don't got to think about it. I'm gonna pull.
Yep.
Right. Like it's just natural. It's just pulling out. Right. But when you're like overthinking it, even if it's working, it's the opposite.
Right.
You're like, oh, dude. You're like, oh man. Oh, thank God that one didn't hit me. Oh, that one would
Yes.
have got me. Right. And it like.
So I think that Jean
Takes your
Silva
confidence
was
away.
playing the exact same game that you're discussing, but only playing it with power strikes, right? So
Yeah.
he's like, I'm going to huck some power. Maybe I didn't hit you, but I was closer to hitting you with power than you were to me. And I think Silva just doesn't care about those like lighter strikes. And exactly what you said, he's just imposing his will on Bryce. And I remember a point where I saw Bryce super twitchy, super like, and Jean Silva just sitting in his stance, relaxed, talking shit. And I do think that some of his antics, like the whole, why don't you touch my glove?
That was-
it comes across as like a
you
little
guys are
cringy.
like in like a serious like heated
Right.
like this is heat. There's a real heat here, and you're gonna go glove touch him?
And that's
and
the
then
thing.
act surprised, but you think he was doing it on purpose to like
I do.
see. I feel like if the heat is that hot, it's not going to work the way you think, right? Like I don't know, if you put me on the other side of that, if we're really like that mad at each other and I really really hate you, right, and then you go glove touch and I go nah, that's gonna pump me up that I got to say no. That you asked for a glove touch. Now I'm starting to like that works you out where you think it's like oh it's just like oh, is he friendly, is he not, is he friendly? No, once we cross that threshold, nothing matters. It doesn't matter anymore.
See, to
right?
me-
You asking for a glove touch
Right.
and me saying no, like you're not playing with my head. Like now I'm taken from that. I'm gonna be like, you wanted a glove? Oh, you thought this was a game? Like
Right.
I'm not taking
So
that.
here's why I think it was a good move. And I think that it was intentional on Jean Silva's part, right? So Jean Silva talking shit leading up to the fight, right?
Yeah.
Earth is round, yada, yada, whatever.
Oh my God, I think my face is back.
It just turned online.
Oh wow.
But think about it, right? So Silva's doing all these things, and Bryce is responding like he's playing the game, right? So he talks about like, he's doing his barking, and Bryce is like, I put a lot of dogs down in my time or whatever.
But that's
right?
at the press conference. That's
I'm
not in
aware.
the middle of the
I'm
fight.
aware. I'm aware. But what I'm saying is, he's got him playing the game in the same way that McGregor got Aldo to play the game. He gets him to respond to those things. When I think people are most mentally strong is when they don't play that game. So someone insults, fighter A insults fighter B. Fighter B either plays the game and hits back with like lines that are related to what you
You
said.
don't think that there's a difference between the game at the press conference and the game at the
100%
fight?
there is. 100%
Right?
there
Like,
is.
imagine not playing the game at the press conference. You just sit there. Like, that's kind of what the press conference is. The press conference is, okay, let's build some banter.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And that's what the UFC wants. But for example, me personally, let's say someone's insulting me. I am not, like, I'm not going to play that game. I'm just going to be like, all right, cool, dude. whatever, you know what I mean? Like, and because you're not playing that game, you're showing your opponent that nothing within that game works against you. The fact that Bryce was playing that game, I think, told Silva that he can continue that game in the cage, and knowing that there was that tension, be like, oh, let's touch gloves. And then Bryce is going to be like, wait, why does he want to touch? Like, what? Even if he thinks about it for like a half a second, in my mind, that's a win for
But what if
Silva.
the half a second is like him thinking you're weak?
Well, then he's underestimated you. That's a great thing.
So basically, it's only a good thing. It could not be a bad thing.
Oh, it absolutely could be a bad thing for sure. I'm just saying, I personally believe it was.
Well, no,
a good
no.
thing.
It either you said then he underestimated you.
No, I'm saying that's what it could mean.
It could mean that, or it could like okay, I don't get it.
You
I just
could be right.
Like I mean, at some I don't know. I just cannot get on board with that.
Totally
right.
fair.
Like those dudes. I thought those dudes were like for real about it. Like they were gonna
Yeah.
like try to kill each other.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
And once you're to that point, like, and you ask me for a glove touch, it's not going to mentally throw me off.
The other thing is too, you could absolutely, like, let's say that they do an interview with Jean Silva and they're like, how much of this is intentional? And he's just like, I'm just being me. I could absolutely believe that. And then I'd be like, oh, that's not intentional. I don't really like it as much. You know what I mean? I'm going to bat for Jean Silva right now.
To me, you asking for the glove touch tells me that everything you said in the press conference was fake, that you were putting on a show.
I believe
now,
that's true.
to me, like, if you weren't putting on a show and like we're both about to kill each other, that's a little more nerve wracking to me, right? Because I like you pushed me to a level of like seeing red, and now so I'm assuming you're there as well, and now you're showing that you're not there, right? Like I just don't see how that works the other way, how that could benefit you. Like I'm like I don't know, dude. It's like when someone gets up slow after the round.
Yeah.
Right? Like I'm just like boom. Like it gives you a shot like extra. And that's how I would take you asking for a glove touch. I'd be like, oh, that's a shot of extra. You know?
Yeah. And maybe that's how it went down too. Like you could absolutely be right on that. I'm going to bat for Jean Silva because like I like him, you know what I mean? But I could absolutely be wrong about all of that. So who knows? But that is an interesting like part of this fight was that psychological battle and the fact that Jean Silva was talking during the fight, asking for the glove touches.
What do you think about psychological battles in MMA? Do you just
love them?
Hate them.
Love them.
I think it's so weak.
Okay, what did you think about oh my god, what's his name? O'Malley's coach. What's his name?
Tim Welsh. I did not
Tim
like
Welsh.
it.
Interesting. Now, do you believe Tim Welsh that was a code, or do you think he was just talking shit?
I think he was talking shit.
Me too. And you don't like it.
No, I don't like it.
Do you view it? Do you not like it? Because
I don't like it the same way. Let me compare it to wrestling. I don't like it the same way wrestling fans beg for a stall call. He's stalling, ref. What is he doing? Like, don't you want your wrestler to beat the other wrestler, or do you want you to help get some points so your wrestler can win?
Right.
Or do you want your wrestler to actually be the better wrestler?
Dude, and this is prime example as to how you and I look at you look at fighting more from like the sport perspective, and I like to look at it more from like the fighting, martial arts, whatever perspective. Because to me, so all right, great story that kind of I think is a good analogous story for this, just psychologically. You're familiar with Miyamoto Musashi, correct?
Yes.
Right, Sword Saint of Japan, yada yada, beat 60 some dudes in duels. So he had the one duel where he showed up. He was there on time, but he was hiding, right? And everyone's gathered around, and the guy he's supposed to fight is there, and he just waits. And obviously, you know, the Japanese culture is big on like respect, and the fact that he just kept waiting, and like hours went by or something like that, and then finally he strolls out, and the other dude's so upset and so angry that he fights poorly, and Musashi beats him. You know what I mean? I understand from your side where it's like, oh well, would he have beaten him without? Would he have beat him without that? Totally get that, but to me, it's like the end result was still what it was, and Musashi made it happen. Love that.
But that's a gamble. You're taking a gamble.
Totally.
Right? Because like, what if he fought better?
Right? Yeah, he was. Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Yeah, but like that gamble, worked out for him, and I love stuff like that. I love the psychological aspect of it.
But what I like about that I just still think I just like want your skill. I want the better fight. I want the person who is better at fighting to win. Now psychological stuff does come into play, but like I hate it when like it's the coach doing the psychological stuff. I don't like that because I want it to be the fighter.
Right. Again, I totally get that. I think you and I just come from totally different sides looking in.
Like as a coach, I don't want to like I want my actions to just be help my fighter independently of the opponent.
Yeah, you want to influence the fighter who influences the judges, as opposed to influencing the judges or ref or anyone independently.
Yeah. I don't want to influence the other fighter. I don't want to influence the opponent. I don't like that.
Right.
I think it's like dishonorable and dirty.
Yeah.
You know, to influence the opponent.
Yeah.
You know,
I totally get that.
like
I'm down for those games.
what the most ideal way for me to corner a fight would be that like there was some like way that my fighter could hear me but not the other fighter.
Right.
You know, that would be the most ideal way, because I don't want to influence the other fighter. I want to influence only my fighter, and I want my fighter to earn their victory.
And it's funny because, and that's also like how you and I differ in the corner, right? Is like I am acutely aware, not that you're not aware, but like I know that the other fighter can hear what I'm saying, and what I say to our fighters is heavily influenced by that. Whereas the way that you coach, it's partly due to the nature of the game, but also I think our approaches as well, is that you, I don't want to say ignore that, but like, it doesn't change things as much as it does for me, you know?
No, yeah.
Yeah.
I would say like in that aspect, I try, like I don't talk to the opponent. I don't say things. If something that I say, like if I'm like, oh, like you know, like, oh, he did, like I can't even think of an example right now.
Things like he didn't like that
oh,
shot.
he wants out.
Right, yeah,
He
yeah,
wants
yeah.
out. That one hurt him. I'm not saying that for the opponent to hear it and then like that to like play some type of mind game with it. I'm saying it for my fighter to hear it, to
Right.
like,
yeah,
like, you know
to
what I
get
mean?
them amped up, right?
Yeah,
Not to
to
dissuade the
like
other
to get
guy.
them to like maybe like dial into that.
Right.
Be like, oh, that worked. Right, that move worked. Maybe let's do it again because it worked. You're having success, because I know what it's like to be in there. When you're in there, there's a lot of times where you're doing something successful and you don't realize that it's
Right.
working.
Yeah.
You're like, oh my god, like, you know, and like you go to the corner and then they're like, yeah, dude, like you were just like totally like passing his guard there.
It's
and then you just
crazy.
stopped.
Sometimes fighters have no clue. Like you're like, you just landed your jab 20 times in a row, and then they're like, wait, for real? I was trying to land the right hand. It's just, what to keep stay on your jab.
Yeah.
Now, hold on. Last thing about this, and I think we should probably move on to a different subject, or at least talk about the fight itself a little more. But do you remember in your career, you and I had two codes that were kind of, I don't want to say me talking to the opponent, but they were made for the opponent
No,
to
I
hear.
don't remember.
There were two. I'll tell you later. But yeah, I'll tell you later. And Max, you want to believe it?
No. Hold on. So I do have something with codes.
Okay.
Oh, dude, I don't care. Whatever. Like we should be able to figure
I
this
can
out.
bleep whatever you want to say.
All right, so you can decide after if you want this bleeped or not. But here, I'm going to use a code. I'm going to use an actual code because this guy doesn't fight anymore.
Okay.
Right? So Jake Rogers, right? His code for his takedown was 22.
Uh-huh.
All right, and the rationale behind it was he hunts, so it's
Right.
like, you know, it's like a
Yeah,
a
it's a
shotgun,
gun.
right? And also, like, the opponent could possibly think that that's like a cross,
Right, yeah,
right?
something to do with the number system.
Yeah, with
Yeah.
like striking. So maybe
Right.
it wouldn't make you think like of a takedown,
Right.
or whatever. Now, why am I okay with that when it is kind of like deceiving and tricky, right? Why am I okay with that? Because I think I'm hiding. Like, I think if you're picking up on my codes, right, then you're the dirty one, right?
Right.
So if you picked up on my codes wrong, that's on you. I didn't do it to deceive you.
Interesting.
Right?
Yeah.
So if you took that as like, oh, he's going to throw a cross twice,
Right.
you know, and that, like, why are you listening to me?
Yeah.
Like, you're listening to my codes, like, you know what I mean, trying to figure out my shit. Like, that's like Stein stealing in baseball, right? Like, you
Yeah.
know, like all right,
if you
and
misinterpret
you get
it-
it wrong, you misinterpret it, now
Yeah.
you pay, right? You know,
That's
So-
interesting. Yeah, there. Whatever. There's. Okay. I don't want to have to believe things. Whatever. We'll just move on from codes.
I don't think that needs like bleep.
No, that doesn't. But the things I was thinking of do. So I'm not even gonna say them. Back to this fight. Okay. So ground game from Silva. I think this is the most I've seen of it, and I was very impressed by it. Dude, his stand-up, kind of getting back to what we were saying, I think that he was playing that game with Bryce, but just kind of discounting anything that just pitter-patter touched him. I think he was just looking for big shots, and because Bryce knew that, he got uncomfortable, like you were talking about, and got even more twitchy and more predictable. And dude, Silva's style of pressure, heavy shots, looking for the correct moments, his positioning, standing up, dude, it's so beautiful. His stance, so beautiful.
What do you think about that ninja choke?
Dude, I was so impressed by it. Like the fact that he was able to hold it even while Bryce was like rolling out of it. Like Bryce is a high level grappler. You know what I mean? The fact that he was able to secure that tells me that Silva's the real deal.
Yeah, for sure. I would say, do you have any experience with that choke?
No, I'm
What
not
about you,
good at
Max?
it.
Yeah, that's when I fought in November when I shot on the kid.
Yeah.
That's what he tried to go for, and I was like, that feels really bad. I'm gonna like evasive maneuver out of this, and I like ejector seat rolled out of it and ended up on bottom. But I remember feeling it wasn't like a guillotine. I felt like his forearm on the back of my neck too, and I was like, that's fucking bad. You know.
So we have somebody at our gym who's pretty good at that choke. All right, we all know this person, and you know, I'm not sure it's the right thing or whatever. I'm not sure. I'm not ready to stand on this line and say, hey, this is the right reaction, this is the wrong reaction. Or even that there's like a gray area, like, hey, this is the right reaction once it gets to this point.
Right.
But when I am put in that choke from that single leg, the last thing I do is drop. I stay up.
That makes sense, actually.
I stay up and I start like running the pipe and like I start like, you know, I just continue to wrestle.
Okay.
And that I have been put out by that choke.
That's not what I thought
this
you meant.
person by dropping, and I've been tapped by it by dropping. And the only times I may have got out of it a few times by dropping too, but I've gotten out of it almost every time by staying up.
Interesting. So if let's say that you're in like a ninja choke and you go, I don't know, you're trying to lift. I can see how that would get you out of the choke. What about crackdown? Does that?
No, crackdown is like the primary one. It's like
because it slides your head
I'm not,
out.
Like I'm going crackdown, lift, and like turn in, crackdown, lift, and turn in and stuff, and it just like it will start to separate. Like, well, here goes the thing. Like when they're throwing a ninja choke, what they're doing is the arm that would be the overhook arm, all right, and or the whizzer hand is now committed to the neck, right? So if you go crackdown, the whizzer, which would help them keep their balance, is not there. The neck is there. So likely, you know, to keep their balance, they're going to have to either A, remove it, or B, fully commit to it and go to their back with it, which I think is a less strong position.
Interesting.
So now I'm not ready to like be like that is it, but like it's something that's in like we'll call it like it's in the lab right now.
Yeah, those are some data points that you're playing with. That's interesting.
Yeah, so I think dropping. I'm predicting. My hypothesis is that dropping is the least desirable.
That makes sense because if the drop itself doesn't get you out of the choke, then what?
Yeah, it's almost like honestly, it's like a Hail Mary.
Yeah.
For that choke to me is like hitting the ejector seat, like Max said.
Interesting.
You know, like you're better off staying up.
Now, what did you think about the final position that Bryce got into, right? So he rolled and his body kept rolling, but his head was just still stuck there.
Yeah. I mean, dude, I've never experienced that quite position like that. It was impressive. I don't know.
The other thing was
how fast he went out.
Yeah, I didn't realize he was out because his eyes were open and because he tapped.
That's so hilarious. Michael Bisping posted he went out with his eyes open. Have you ever seen someone close their eyes? I've only seen people out with their eyes open.
That's actually a good point too.
Like,
I didn't think of it like that.
Like you just said it independently of Michael Bisping, and he was like, "Whoa, he went out with his eyes open." I'm thinking about every time I ever put someone out and was waking them up.
Yeah.
I've never seen their eyes closed. I've only seen people go out with their eyes open. I mean, I suppose if your eyes were closed while you're fighting it off, I think your eyes are just going to be in whatever position they were in.
See, I didn't think of it because I was like, oh, if he was out, his eyes would go to sleep. I just didn't realize that he went out because he tapped, and I thought that he got it off like relatively quick. You know what I mean? But yeah, no, that's a good point too.
Yeah, literally everything. Like, can you think of a time that somebody's eyes were closed?
Not once.
Getting choked unconscious? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Right? Like, imagine. Have you ever seen someone go out in like a rear naked choke?
Yeah.
Right? Like. How come you don't know they're out immediately? Like, oh, he closed his eyes, he's out, right? Like, you don't do that, right? It's always like checking them, checking them.
Yeah.
And why? Because their eyes are still open.
Right, yeah.
You know? It's like, yeah. When Michael Bisping tweeted that, I was just like, I'm going to let that rock because, like, I'm starting to question myself here. But I'm like, I think they're always open, dude.
No, dude, 100% you're right. I just didn't realize that he was out until I watched the replay because, like, in the moment, like, he gets, like, you know, Jean
you know
Silva
what the
gets
telltale
up.
sign to look for if they're out, if you can see it, is the diaphragm.
Yeah.
Right?
If
like,
you get
like
that,
the strength of the pulse.
right? And also like the almost like spasmy kind of sputtering look that it has versus if someone's just like
a heavy. Yeah. Like the heavy, it's a little longer of a take instead of like a pop. It's almost like CPR looking.
Yeah,
it's like pop.
Well, I mean, think about neurologically what's happening there, right? Like your body's just going into overdrive. Like dude, you're gonna die.
Yeah. All right, dude, we gotta
move on. Yeah. Oh, no. We don't got to move on. Real quick. Jean Silva, who does he fight next? Bryce Mitchell, who's he fight next? These are fights that actually matter, especially Jean Silva.
Wow, really? I mean, we have an unranked guy versus the number 13. Do these really matter?
Yeah, but how good did he look, dude?
All right, give me Jean Silva versus...
Dude, honestly, you know what would be a fun fight? Him against Murphy. because Murphy's
not going to take that. No way. Him against Zalal.
Okay, same thing that I was going to say. Zalal and Murphy have
Could you
the
imagine
styles.
putting him against Murphy? Like, Murphy, next fight should be a number 1 contender. He's 16-0. I think he beat, I think he took the same route as Ilya Tapora. Like, he beat, a lot of the same guys. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they've got, a comparable.
I think the difference is the UFC does not look favorably upon Murphy, you know?
All right, well, so it's the same thing as, I'm
not saying you're wrong.
How many fights has Murphy won in the UFC?
I think he's undefeated still, right?
I mean, he's undefeated. He's 16-0-1, but I wonder how many are in the UFC.
I would guess 5 or 6 if I
would say 8. 7 or 8.
Yeah, no, I can see that.
So he just beat Josh Emmett, right? Who was up there in title contendership. Who was his, and then he beat Dan Ige. So he has 2 ranked wins, you know, amongst probably 5 or 4 other UFC wins.
Here's the thing is, dude, there's no way. Oh, well, actually, okay. So his next fight could absolutely be for a title eliminator. I could see them having him fight Yair because I think the UFC just puts him up in a matchup that they either think he's going to lose or they think will force him to be exciting.
Well, if we go back to the main event, I had Murphy versus Yair, number 1 contender fight.
Right.
Lopez versus Aljo because that's what I really want.
Yep.
You know, and then Volk versus Evelev. So I really think that, I don't think that you can have Murphy go backwards right now.
I could see that. The argument against that would be that
they don't like him. Would be no, we don't like you.
No. I'm saying for if you're Murphy's coaches and you're trying to be hey, this is why it might be a good fight. I'm playing devil's advocate here. I wouldn't advise this if I were his coaches. Is they could be look, this is a surging star. You know what I mean? And you can get some of that star power, kind of in the same way.
More of a surging star than Diego Lopez, who just fought for a title. No way. There's no way that fight makes sense at all for Murphy. It only makes sense for Jean Silva.
Yeah, no. If I were his coaches, I would absolutely be fighting for him to get.
He's not going to. There's no way that he's coming in and he's going to fight. There's no way he's going all the way back to fighting someone who's probably going to be ranked 13 and who is on there who just got ranked.
Yeah, I wouldn't advise that.
Do you think that they would offer him Pico?
Murphy? Yes, I could absolutely see them offering him.
I think that's what they're going to do because you're right. They don't favor him super highly, but he is 1 or 2 fights away from a title. I think they're going to try and give him the Pico.
And Pico has the skills to force him into a quote exciting fight. You know
so then the UFC basically has to say Pico is title contendership then.
Right.
Why would Pico be title contendership? What dude, huge I want Pico. Do I want him to be? There's a strong chance that I would like to see Pico as a UFC champ. I might be rooting for him. He might be the featherweight that I pick to ride behind. He has not done anything to be off of who is his best win, how many in a row, things like that.
No, you're making good points. I would personally like to see Silva fight. Honestly, I don't think there's any bad Silva fights, and the ones you listed, I think, are interesting.
It's just that's too big of a jump.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So he should fight Josh Emmett.
If Chikadze wins
for Josh Emmett, Chikadze, when's the Chikadze fight?
That's not this weekend, but the following weekend.
Okay, so that's close enough.
Yeah, if Giga wins, that's a good one.
Yeah, or Zalal, because Zalal didn't he not just win a main event?
Yep. Was it a main event?
I think it was a co-main. That was against Cater.
Okay, yeah, where he beat Cater. Right. It was a co-main.
That's an interesting fight as well.
Right, yeah, that's good. So, all right. I don't think... Here goes the thing. I just don't think, worrying about Jean Silva's ranking towards the title is, right now. I think he's not ranked. He's going to be ranked tomorrow.
Yeah.
That's too much pre-talk.
Yeah, I think those are all solid choices, too.
All right, let's move.
Yeah, let's move on.
All right, let's run through the rest of it.
Yeah, we have to.
All right. Okay.
I've only got one thing to say about this, dude. The slow-mo of him hitting that step back left hand, brother, the timing on it was fantastic. And also his connection to the mat. That's what I'm always telling our guys is connect to the mat. And you can see it in the slow-mo. You literally see the force go up his leg, up through his torso, and then out through his hand. It was a thing of beauty.
Yeah, it was awesome. The little golf celly afterwards, I like that. Fan of that. Good fight.
Yeah.
Next. Ige Woodson, was this stoppage early?
1,000% it was early, dude.
Yes, it was
Woodson
early.
had a single and he was standing up with it. He was on the way up. Like, could you imagine?
Is this a terrible, terrible stoppage? No. Right? Like, he was getting crushed down there, and like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, okay, like, you would not have said this was a bad stoppage if the ref stopped it 2 punches earlier.
Exactly. Or
You know what I
had he
mean?
not have started standing up.
Yeah,
If
had he not started standing up. So if the ref would have just jumped in 2 punches earlier, you'd
We
be
would all
like,
be like,
oh,
ah, yeah.
good stoppage. You're just, you ate like 12 unanswered hammer fists to the
Right.
side of your head
Right.
while laying down underneath the knee.
Yep.
You know? The fact that, you know, he was coming up while the ref made the contact is what makes it look
100%.
bad. And it also lets you know that he wasn't like out.
Right.
But had that got stopped 2 punches earlier, no one's complaining.
Yeah, and it's interesting too because you see he's in on the single. He lets go with one hand to post on the mat, and I'd be willing to bet that the ref decided while he was still in on the single, he's like, all right, I'm gonna go stop this. And then like while he's going over, he goes and starts standing. So
Yeah.
it's like, was it a bad stoppage? For sure. But I think the point you're making absolutely stands.
Yeah, it's a bad stoppage, but it wasn't the worst.
Now let me ask you this. Apparently, all the judges had Ige up 2-0 leading up to that.
What? He was
Yeah.
up 2018 going into the third? I had it 19-19.
It was really hard for me to judge, but I can see that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, cool.
Interesting. Yeah.
Ige, my man, though.
Good for Ige. Yeah.
Man, these arm bars.
Dude, bro, jiu-jitsu's back. I thought her jiu-jitsu looked really well. How do you say her name? Jandaroba?
Yeah.
I thought it looked pretty good, man. Like, what did you think?
Yeah, I thought it looked pretty good. I liked her arm
And
locks.
exciting, right? Like that's I think what's been missing in MMA recently is not jiu-jitsu, but exciting jiu-jitsu. And I think with this fight, I think with the your leg lock entry, like we're just seeing a lot of like really cool things that we haven't seen as of late.
All right, push.
Yep, keep it moving, brother.
Oh,
Oh, dude.
so sad. Well, okay, so 2 things to take away from this. Number 1, so sad for Jim Miller.
Yeah.
So sad. Number 2, you know what the problem I have with Chase Hooper is?
What's that?
Is I saw him fight too young. I saw him fight
Yeah.
at the age of like
Right.
19, looking prepubescent, and I can't get that out of my head.
Dude, me too.
Because he is so good now.
Dude.
But like, you know what I mean?
Speaking of jujitsu's back, brother, not only is jujitsu back,
His striking looks good, dude.
yes.
And he looks like
He's filled
he
out.
always looked like a little like dorky nerd, right? And he still has a little bit like of like a nerdy face
Right.
going. But dude, he's like a man.
Yeah, he's filled out for sure.
Yeah, and I'm just like, dude, I'm super pumped about him and stuff. Like, I think I might not have gotten this so wrong had I not watched his like Contender Series fight and then
Yep.
went and looked at some of his older stuff after seeing that.
Yep.
And then he had a CFFC fight
I believe
right off the Contender Series because they put him in like a developmental thing and stuff. And he was just like so young and like
Yeah, and
like,
also
physically immature that like it's like, oh, that's what he is to me.
yeah, when you first
And
see
I
a
need
fighter,
I need to like wipe. I need that. I need more of this to like kind of like.
exactly wipe that slate clean. So this is the stat that kind of did that for me, because I was in the exact same boat. Apparently at featherweight he was 3-3, and at lightweight he's like 5-0 or something now. And I'm like, oh, like that's to me the demarcation that like, all right,
How old
now
is he?
he's
Like
changed.
24, 25?
Something like that. I want to say 25.
He's 25.
Yeah,
Bro, dude, he is gonna be so good.
dude, he's already so good.
I mean, he's already so good, but like, dude, he's gonna be like. I think he's gonna get in the rankings, and I think he's gonna be there for years.
Yes.
For years.
Dude, his jiu-jitsu is so good. Now, let me ask you this about jiu-jitsu. Jim Miller said before this fight, this was going to be a battle of styles in jiu-jitsu. His, quotes, old school style of smashing positions.
Yeah.
And Hooper's kind of like new school, not necessarily being afraid to play off bottom, leg locks, slick stuff. You know what I mean?
My thing, dude, I bet you Hooper is really good at sport jiu-jitsu too.
That's what I was about to say.
Bro, his jiu-jitsu, like it's for real. He was running that truck position, which everybody was really impressed with. I'm very fond that he was kind of using that truck position as well.
Now, let me ask you this. In that truck position, the danger, because I heard the announcers saying, I believe, that like he could potentially attack the leg that wasn't wrapped up. I was under the impression that he was going for a calf slicer.
Well, he was going for a calf slicer on the leg that was inside
Wrapped up, okay.
inside of the truck. Some people refer to it as a twister hook. it's part of like taking the back like from the Berimbolo system as well. So it's just like whatever like you learn the name the language as, it's whatever, it's all the same thing. But yeah, he was going calf slicer there, but he could have had like like a banana split groin stretch, and there's also an attack on the leg that would have been controlled with the arms. Besides the groin stretch, there you can attack
like a toe
the knee
hold or something.
Yeah, like I mean you could go toe hold. I mean. But, like, you can kind of inside heel hook that and, like, rotate that. Like, you can use, like, that type of grip to help rotate against the knee. That's also the position that lines you up to the twister as you start going more chest, as you start climbing towards the back. And it's also a great tool to retake the back, because with that hook, when you put your feet to the mat, it points the hips away from you, which brings the back off the mat. And if you control the arm, you can connect your chest to the back. What I liked most about this was we literally just did a 4-week block on it in my advanced classes. We just finished week 2. So the last 6 weeks, right? The last 6 weeks, 4 of those 6 weeks have been about that.
Oh, that's sick.
Right? And like, Monday through Thursday at 6:30, Zealy strip, Monroeville strip, right? Have been like, we've been hitting that. So
that's so fun when something.
I'm sure a lot of the I got a couple text messages like, "Oh my God, you seeing him using that truck hook and stuff like that?" And I'm like, yep. I'm like, I'm glad that, something that we were working on is just like, boom, right in your face.
Yeah. And I think it was in 2 separate rounds too. Same position. Yeah.
It's a tremendous position.
Yeah.
It's a way that you can use to take the back. And as you're losing the back, you can retreat to it.
Right.
As well. If you're losing the back towards the strangle arm.
And the amount of different submissions you have from there, that's really interesting.
Right. That calf slicer is a little bit dangerous to go on there. That
as the attacking guy?
As the attacking guy. We've had a lot of people pop
their own
LCLs, their own LCL there, because think about it. If you're being calf slicered, what's your reaction going to be to that? To straighten your leg. Your leg is being bent. And when they straighten the leg, it pushes your foot, which is bent, like it pushes the inside of your foot towards your face.
Right.
So that's like LCL, like pop. And we've seen that. He had it pretty decently backed up by having it in a triangle position. But sometimes even that, because if you have it towards a triangle position, even the knee that's protecting the foot from going towards your face, that knee can go towards your face.
Right, yeah.
And then the foot goes with it.
The whole system.
Yeah. So I typically like to see people step on it, right? Because then when the knee goes in, it goes to my shoulder and it prevents my foot from going towards my face. Yeah.
That's interesting.
I'm not like a huge fan of that. But it is I'm a huge fan of it to like bring attention, to get back to the other leg, to start creating that chest to back connection. But he looked awesome. I was, as much as everybody's impressed with his jiu-jitsu, which I certainly am, I think I was more impressed with his striking because it was more like
unknown,
like like unexpected to me, right? Like I knew his jiu-jitsu was real good, and I mean I knew his striking has been getting very good, but like it was just, I don't know.
Yeah,
it hit me a little different.
No, for sure. Yeah, very impressed with Hooper. Next fight.
All right, Darren Elkins, Julian Erosa.
Dude, what do you think about the stoppage on this? Do you think it was late?
I didn't see the fight.
Oh, okay. So, dude,
it was
Elkins
during bedtime.
Elkins got hurt very early with an up kick, and like it was clear to anyone who like knows about fighting, he was like gone. Like he was just wobbly, zombieing around. And then there was another like a minute and a half of Erosa hitting the slowest strikes of all time, but hitting Elkins. It reminded me, not as bad, but kind of like when I watched, and like I love, obviously I'm into like violent sports. Like I like this kind of stuff. But you remember Ferguson against Gaethje? And like there were a couple rounds where you're like, dude, we don't need this. Like it's like kind of like disturbing almost. That's kind of how I felt about this fight. So, yeah, Erosa looked unbelievably slow in it, so I don't see like big things for him. But Bomber Elkins,
let's just keep pushing,
keep it moving. Dude, Dumas, bro. Okay, so did you see this fight?
No, I didn't see any more fights.
All right, hold on, I can explain this to you. So Dumas just like got run through in this, but he gets dropped or taken down or whatever. He's on his back and he's just fully balled up. He's got butterfly hooks in, but he's doing literally nothing with them. They're just sitting there. 8 like 25 unanswered strikes, right? Elbows going through the guard, everything. He's getting ruined. Ref breaks it up. Dumas stands up and is like, whoa, whoa, whoa. And he's just like, he's going so hard trying to be like, why did you stop it? I'm like, bro, are you kidding me? It was freakishly hilarious how bad, like,
I didn't see it.
You didn't miss out on much. Keep it moving. This fight
no, I did see the Trayshawn Gore Marco
Troy
fight.
That was a fight. Now hold on.
It was
Sumajari and Mitch Raposo. Did you see it?
No, I listened to it though. I had it like on my phone. I
Right,
had my AirPods
but-
in, but I was like, you know,
doing dad stuff.
yeah.
This fight wasn't like the most fun fight in the world. The story was Raposo getting takedowns but doing nothing with them.
Yeah.
And Simajari wasn't particularly active either, but you know, landing more so, standing up. Not the best fight in my mind. I kind of was interested to see what you thought scoring wise, but if you didn't watch it, who
Nope.
cares? Dude, this fight was incredible. Trayshawn Gore is like the toughest man alive. He just
Yeah,
refused
he was-
to be stopped.
Yep.
Also, Tulio, I thought looked really good, and I'm interested to see what he does at middleweight. What are your thoughts on the fight?
Yeah, I mean, I thought Tolio's striking looked incredible. Trayshawn Gore, tough as hell, had, I mean, small moments, but moments of his
Yeah.
own. There was a time at the end of the first round where Trulio really poured it on going for the finish, and it didn't get the finish.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, is this fight swinging?
Right, that's exactly what I thought. I was like, oh, are we gonna see Gore's big comeback? But nah, Tulio just has like enough tools.
Yep. And all right, that's it for the card.
Yeah, I didn't watch that fight.
All right, cool.
Max, you got any thoughts on the card before we move on?
Nothing major. There was one thing I wanted to mention when you guys were going over with Chase Hooper. This is just, I saw it on his Tapology while I was looking around. But speaking to his grappling, I don't know exactly how like 80XC, the decisions and stuff for like jiu-jitsu comps at that level work. But his last professional grappling competition, he went to a split decision with Aljamain Sterling, which
Oh, really?
is like pretty impressive, especially looking
his
at
age.
Like, I know Aljo's the weight class.
Wait, when was that?
That was it was January of last year.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
January of
yeah.
last year. Was Aljo at featherweight yet?
Yeah,
I want to say
January
yes.
of 24.
so.
When did he lose to O'Malley? O'Malley lost the belt at
he would
Noche.
have been going to featherweight. I don't know if he would have. No, he would have made his debut in April of 2024, but he would have been beefing up for featherweight at that time.
Okay. And Hooper was a lightweight at this point.
Yeah, but I was like, Hooper's still a weight class above him, but I feel like Aljamain probably walks around heavier than Hooper does. You know what I mean?
I not anymore. I don't think so anymore.
I think Hooper's taller than you might think.
I think
He's
Hooper's
6'1". He's 6'1", but he's like a lanky. He's not like, you look at guys like Jalen Turner or like Joel Alvarez. They're like 6'3", and they look like they have a hard weight cut. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Hooper doesn't look to me like he has a hard weight cut that much. He looks filled out, but he doesn't look.
Yeah.
He's not like Patty filled out. You know what I mean?
Right.
Patty started 45, came in at 55. He was still kind of scrawny, and now he's like filled out.
Now-
Hooper looks like he still has some muscle to put on.
And part of that's genetics too, because like how your muscle shows is very different, right? So like me at like this weight or like 20 pounds lighter kind of looks exactly the same. You know what I mean? I feel like tall, lanky guys who don't have like great muscle definition, it's kind of hard to tell. So yeah, who knows? But yeah, no, he's a beast.
All right, cool. So, what's next?
The
There's
next
no
UFC
UFC
card.
this weekend, so let's go take a look at our fight picks.
Let's. I love that our fight picks are separate from the bets too, because the
Well, like you
lines
said,
really do.
on the bets, you try to
Yeah.
bet with on the gambling, you're trying to bet with your head. On these, it's more so your heart.
Yeah.
All right, so.
Oh, I didn't go with my heart. I went Lopez. What a noob.
Oh yeah. Oh okay.
Oh, okay, Mike, catching up.
I had Mitchell and I had Chandler, but I
Oh.
had Hooper, Ige, and Rodriguez.
Max and I are all tied up. So we got Mike at 25, 25 and 1, me at 27, 23 and 1, and Max also at 27.
Dude,
3
maybe
and
we
1.
should start betting with our heart instead of our brains.
Dude, for real, we might do better.
Well, here goes the thing. Like, if you're going, like, for example, I'm 500, right?
Uh-huh.
And you'd be like, oh, okay, so you'd be about even if you made those bets, which is not true because, like, I'm picking
Odds,
favorites
right.
to win. So when they do win, I don't get a full unit.
Right.
I get like 0.3 of a unit.
Now hold on, let's look at some of the places where we differ and figure out where it goes. So when I see like Mitchell, for example, I understand why you chose Mitchell. He had a very clear, road to victory. We haven't seen a lot of Silva's ground game. You could see him taking Silva down and dominating there like he's done against so many other guys. Silva just surprised us with how good he was. I was going more with my heart in that situation, but I absolutely see where you were coming from. Hooper, what told you before the fight that Hooper was going to win?
I just thought he was going to win. I thought he was better. I remember I took Jim Miller because the odds. I was like, yo, that's a plus 600.
Right.
I was like, I got to go because I could see Jim Miller like weathering it and
Right,
stuff.
yeah.
But what did it was the domination of Hooper on Clay
Clay
Guida,
Guida, yeah.
which, I mean, I do think Jim Miller beats Clay Guida, but I think that's a competitive fight.
Yeah, see, I completely discounted that because I thought that Guida had fallen off so much more than Miller that I didn't think it was going to be like comparable. Turned out you were super right; it was comparable, and Hooper's
We all
that
took
dude.
Ige, and that was a dog. That was a dog. He was
Yeah,
a dog,
man.
and we all took Ige.
Okay, so Ige has good speed. I think Woodson uses his range pretty well, but I don't think he has great speed. The other thing is Ige is a legit dog, right? Like he is down to be in like tough fights and throw heavy. And Woodson, I feel like in this fight showed, and I kind of had a feeling before that like when he gets touched up and it's not like going his way, it doesn't. He's not the kind of guy who just like doesn't care about that. You know what I mean? Like it affects his performance. That's kind of what I imagined.
This is only Woodson's second loss.
Really? Who else did he lose to? I thought he was undefeated in the UFC.
He might be undefeated in the UFC. This is his second
Oh,
loss.
lost just period.
But I do
Gotcha.
believe he's lost in the UFC.
I think people talk about the weight class being so good for him with him being so like large frame wise. I actually don't see it that way. I think he's too skinny for the weight class, you know, and something I feel as a skinnier fighter, right? Like I boxed at 165. One of the things I could feel is whenever I made 65, I felt frail. I felt like I could be like hurt more easily. I feel like I didn't have as good of cardio. I couldn't crack that hard. You know what I mean? So like if I was playing my game and I was landing jabs on the outside and people were respecting my power and I was able to move the way I wanted to move, running over dudes, I'm never getting touched. But when I wasn't able to do that, and like especially if guys started getting in my body and started landing heavy and like you kind of go into defense mode and like, you know, especially towards the end of my career when the weight cuts got really bad, like, and I had no pop anymore. Like it really started to affect when guys were starting to get ahead. So that's kind of what I imagined was going to happen. And I do think we saw that in this fight. I could be wrong about the weight cut being the issue, but you know, that's kind of how I look at it.
This was his second. This was his second loss in the UFC. His first one was actually to Julian Erosa by Darce choke a couple years ago.
Interesting.
Yep. He has a draw, which I do remember watching that fight. He has a draw against Luis Saldana. Anyone else who's seen the fight will remember it was like one of the just dumbest performances of all time. Saldana like had him knocked out.
Oh yeah,
tried
and then,
to get a
like, tried to jump
walkout,
on the cage. Or
jumped on the cage. They told him it wasn't over. Knocked him out again, and then threw an illegal knee. And they stopped it. And we're like, "Dude, what are you doing?" And it ended up being a draw because of the point deductions. It was just a mess. But that's a draw on paper. But like, he got worked up there pretty good. He did a good job coming back in the second two rounds.
Yeah.
But it's just a weird fight.
Isn't that such a funny thing about our sport where if you get like a crazy walk-off KO, it's like the most incredible thing. But if you crack someone and walk away and they don't call the fight, it's one of the dumbest things like you could possibly do.
Oh, yeah.
And like lost Jalen Turner a fight against Moicano. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah. All right. Cool.
All right, yeah, I don't see anything else really worth talking about in the picks.
Nope.
Do we want to talk about the next UFC card coming up? We'll say. I guess that's next week's
Yeah.
episode, right?
Yeah.
Do we have any rumored fights? Any interesting things around the card to discuss? Anything interesting coming up
Nope.
with our guys?
Nope. 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 Nope.
Don't we have fights next week?
Nope.
Wait, what's the date?
This weekend?
Oh yeah, no, that's the following weekend. That's right.
Yeah, it's the following
Is
weekend.
Logan
too.
Pryor still on the card this weekend?
No, so
No.
Logan has a had a pretty nasty infection. So he's off the card. But we do have Kyle O'Hare fighting on the main event card in Youngstown, April 19th. I'm sure you all know who he is. Hit up his Instagram, get your tickets. It's gonna be cool.
Will, do you want to mention anything else on the 19th?
Yeah, I think if we're done discussing fights,
Yes.
because there's no UFC card, if you're not going to watch Kyle fight, you guys should go to the best seminar that you haven't been to yet. We have Luke the Chef and Shane Faison together
That's right.
for the first joint seminar they have ever done. So again, quick review: Luke the Chef, best American Muay Thai fighter right now. He's out there thugging it and beating dudes up. He just got a crazy good stoppage win over that Canadian fella with that spot kick.
Yep.
And just brutal stoppage there. And I don't think it's a coincidence that he's seeing this big uptick in his career. But that was the first fight he had where he was training out with Shane Faison and Coach Bob Peach out at Beacon out in New Jersey. They've been developing some game plans and things, and they're going to come and share that with us on the 19th. Super fired up about that. That's going to be
Dude.
up at the Zealy Gym. Yeah,
Nice.
you guys.
A lot of space.
Yep.
Little garage door, get some good weather in there.
Exactly.
Be beautiful. You know what I really like about that seminar is, so you've done a really good job of getting some great seminars in on the striking side. And like we had Luke in, the chef, before, and I just hear good, like, oh, how sick it was, this and that, all these great things about when Luke was in. And I remember when Shane was in before, like hearing like all these, dude, we're getting both of them in together.
Yeah.
Like that's pretty crazy.
And it's not like we're just stacking two random dudes. It's not like I'm like, oh, I'm going to get Faraz a hobby and then like this awesome boxing coach from somewhere else. And like, we'll just
right. Yeah. Like there's cohesion here.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
They literally work together. And so, I'm very excited to see what they cook up for us.
Yeah.
Yeah, very exciting. So sign up for that still. You can do that.
Still a few spots available, right?
Yeah, there's still some spots available. So if you want to, go, you can still get on that.
Up there.
Yeah. Anything else we should be discussing?
Man, that's it for me.
I think that's it.
All right, cool. All right, that was this week's episode of Listen to Your Coaches, and we'll catch you next time.